Julia, hi. Welcome to Let's Grow Young.
Hi, Sanj. Thanks for having me.
No worries. It's so great to have you. And I know you and I know who each other are, and we don't live that far away from each other. But it'd be great. It'd be absolutely great for you to just introduce yourself. There's no need for me to introduce you. It's better coming from you. So, who is Julia Keller?
So Julia Keller is, I call myself a skin and anti-aging or longevity specialist. So what I do is I help people to achieve the skin that they want. So if they have skin concerns, or I help them to boost their longevity, boost their health span, and basically have their best life over 40. So that is, I would say, probably my claim to fame is helping people to believe that they can have their best life over 40.
And why do you choose over 40?
I think I choose over 40 because that's the area that I fit into. And I also think that's kind of when we start to realize our mortality a lot more. So I could say in my practice, I've seen it in waves. I've seen women realize their mortality of right around that perimenopause time. And men, it comes a little bit later. So it's probably closer to their late 50s, 60s. So that's just in my practice. That's kind of what what I get. So women who are younger and men who are younger also do come to me, but they come for different reasons. They come more for their skin issues or if they have something that's just not quite right. And so I kind of zone myself into that area. So as far as my education, my background, I started out in the business field. I actually came to this country, the country that we're both in at the moment, London, to London, to study at London Business School to do my MBA when I was in my early 20s. And I fell in love with London and I fell in love with somebody I met in my program. And I noticed throughout, and he's the father of my children and my ex-husband, but I noticed throughout my marriage that there were times when things were really, really great. We all come into this kind of work because of our own health concerns, because of our own health realizations. So I was in the business world and I was, perfectly okay in the business world. But I noticed, first of all, we moved a lot because his career was taking off in what he was doing and he was the much bigger earner. And I noticed in my own health, it would be better when my emotional health was better. And it would be worse when my emotional health was worse and very much related to our relationship. So if our relationship wasn't going well, my own health would suffer. And it all culminated in one specific moment when things went, I had all these health scares, and culminated in one specific moment when things were really not great. And I was starting to really think like, what's going on? Because health wise, I was doing the same things. I was eating the same way I was always eating. I was exercising the same way. But what's going on that my emotions are causing so much havoc on my health? And I actually had like this moment of crisis. And there was a friend of mine who happened to be my acupuncturist at the time, who I met from like a mommy group. And she gave me this book. It's The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. And I don't think that book is even in print anymore, but it was the most brilliant book because it made me aware, and this was in my early 30s, of how powerful our subconscious mind is to our health. And many, many years forward, I kind of decided after reading that book that, okay, I wasn't as knowledgeable as I am now about the fact that we can actually change things based on how we think about them. But many, many years forward, I decided to leave my marriage because I thought, okay, well, if that's making me unhappy, I need to make sure that I take care of my health by leaving this. Now I actually realize that we can do a lot of things to change, the way our thoughts manifest into our relationships with other people, into our relationships with ourselves, into everything. So I went on this journey to kind of learn more about the subconscious mind. And I had studied psychology in university, but I hadn't really did anything with it. But I went back and I started studying coaching and then NLP and then hypnotherapy. And I've really, really worked on the subconscious mind. And every time I kind of went deeper and deeper and deeper and realized how thoughts manifest so much into your health. So I bring a lot of that into what I do now. And then at some point, I actually had a PA working for me who had a skin disorder. And at the same time, I was really stressed. So I had a skin disorder. And I decided, okay, I don't know how to handle all of these problems. And then I had the clients that were coming to me were very much clients who were manifesting because of their loneliness or because of their social anxiety or because of whatever else, their stress levels. They were manifesting health conditions based on nothing more than their thinking. And so I realized I can help their thinking, but I don't really understand the kind of fundamentals, the biomechanics, what's going on in their body. I didn't know very much about the body. I didn't come from a science background. I came from a, psychology, marketing, sales background. So it's very waffle. So I decided to go back and I studied nutrition. And that putting everything together, the nutrition, and I did my studies in nutrition all the way up to master's level. And in my nutrition, the first part of my nutrition program, I really focused in on skin. And then I became really fascinated in one area that we studied, which was all about aging. And, your skin is shows up. It's the first thing that shows when you age. It's the first reason people come to me is because they don't like the way their skin is showing their age, or their hair is showing their age, or their body's showing their age, or something like that. So I started studying aging specifically, and I was getting to that like 40 plus age. So I thought, okay, I better understand what's happening because I'm seeing these people going through this decline as they get older. And the older they are, the more the decline. So is there anything we can do to slow this down, to stop this? Maybe not prevent it, because we are in a sense kind of human machines. So we do have some kind of obsolescence that's built into our bodies. But what can we do to make sure that our aging is the best it can be? And I was enough seeing people and reading about people who were able to do this that I believed it was possible. So I took the nutrition studies and the prior studies in mind, health, and your manifesting, and I put that together into what I do now with clients in helping them having their best life over 40.
Okay. There's a lot of
long story.
No,
There's a lot in there.
No, there's a lot of stuff there that are leading to your current path. But
yeah,
just stepping back a bit, what is a subconscious for someone listening? You're mentioning how the subconscious can drive your health habits now. What is the subconscious?
So the subconscious is anything in the back of your mind that you might not even be conscious of, which is your thinking. So it could be thinking that is, we like to think of the subconscious as like the thinking that you're not even aware you're thinking. So it's somewhere in there. You might have these negative voices, or you might have this belief system, or you might have these habits that your thought habits. You might think somebody might have told you, oh, when you get to be 50, you're very likely to have a heart attack because their father had a heart attack when they were 50. Or, when you're 50, everything goes downhill. As a woman, that's it. As you reach 50, that's it. Or as a man, when you reach 50, that's it. Your gut's going, your stomach's going, and you just believe this. You have this belief system. Okay, so when I reach 50, that's what's going to happen. And so you just kind of live your life going in that direction. You might believe when I'm older, I'm no good. I'm not worth it to anybody. Because, in the past, we would make people retire at 65. That was it. At 65, you have to stop working because your brain isn't good enough anymore. Because your ability to do your work isn't good enough anymore. So you might have these belief systems in the back of your mind that's thinking, well, I'm no good for anybody when I'm over a certain age.
Okay.
Or you might be believing, nobody can love me, or everything's going to go wrong. If I go to this country, everything's going to go wrong.
Okay.
And then, it's different.
If my subconscious is giving me all those negative messages, what can that lead to? What can that manifest to in terms of health decisions? And
exactly.
And if you're comfortable, what kind of things was that leading you to choose? What kind of poor habits? What kind of outcomes can it have for people who are constantly letting their subconscious dominate their current thinking?
So It depends. So it really depends on the thoughts. So your subconscious can manifest into, I mean, like, for example, there's a lot of studies that say if you have a positive outlook on life, if you use gratitude, you are more likely to age slower. If you have a negative outlook on life, it actually ages you. So it actually shows up in your whole demeanor, your way of looking at the universe. So
Is that accurate though? Is that accurate? So I guess what I'm getting at,
yeah,
does me waking up with gratitude really just simply slow down my aging process, or is it a fact that if I wake up with gratitude, I'm choosing healthier habits rather than waking up?
exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. So it's like it goes together. Everything goes together. If you practice self-care, you're obviously going to look better than somebody who doesn't practice self-care. Let's be honest. Because you're taking the time to look after yourself. If you look after your skin, so I actually studied aesthetics as well. So I'm a big proponent of people, looking after themselves. So if you wake up and you're miserable, most likely what you're going to choose to eat is going to be not great for you. So if we wake up and we're tired and we're cranky and we have no energy and we're like in a negative spiral, very often we choose sugary, carby foods to start our day. Or we choose a coffee. We're tired, we're exhausted, we choose coffee on an empty stomach. Not great for your hormones, for a woman, for example.
Yeah.
And so you starting off negative, it kind of affects everything. Now, the other thing is, if you start off negative, it affects everything that's going to happen in your day. So you have this negative mindset from the beginning, and somehow all these horrible things happen to you in that day. You get splashed while you're walking to the bus, then the bus passes you and you have to wait 15 minutes for the next bus, or the tube all of a sudden, doesn't work from your station and you have to walk like a mile, but you're wearing heels and they break. I mean, I've clients that told me all these stories just from their kind of negative thinking.
Okay.
And the other thing is you can actually think yourself into a better life, better. Like, one of the things I realized 5 years after my divorce, unfortunately, was that the way you think about your marriage can actually decide what happens in your marriage. Now, obviously, it's great if you have two people that are both proactively trying to save a relationship, but you can actually save a relationship with just one person. And there are a lot of books written actually for women, of how to save a relationship just on your own, just by the way you think about your husband. So you
Okay.
could manifest a divorce just by thinking, oh, we start to imagine arguments in our head. Like, I know I'm going to come home and my husband's going to say this and I'm going to say that. And, then he's going to say this and then I'm going to storm up and do that. And then the kid is going to come and cry and he's going to whine. You can actually manifest a completely different scenario. So I did this with my kids, for example. We had this, when they're teenagers, there's like you can have this difficult relationship. I started to think about them differently, and I manifested a completely different relationship with my children, which was incredible because, we are in our head, we're all told teenagers are bad. Teenagers are always going to be troublesome. They're always going to cause you problems. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. I just started thinking differently and seeing my children differently. And from doing that, I started treating them differently. And then our relationship completely changed. I have a
That's
brilliant
amazing.
relationship with two teenagers.
Okay. If you don't mind me asking, how healthy are you now compared to when you were married?
So the funny thing is, I've always been one of these people that mostly had good health habits just without thinking that much about it. I've always liked vegetables. I grew up in a family where my dad was very functionally oriented. He's a functionally oriented doctor before functional medicine existed. I was doing intermittent fasting before intermittent fasting was a thing. But in my marriage, when things were, let's say, not great, I would do, it's like your anxiety, everything takes over. And even if you're eating the right foods, you're doing the right things, you might have to push yourself twice as hard to look after yourself if you're not in a good place. So there were definitely moments when I had a lot of health scares, when I was probably not taking as good care of myself. But a lot of it was coming from here. So,
And for people listening who are going through similar scenarios at the moment,
Mm.
What would be your tips to get them to listen to what's going on here and start rewiring how they process that? If someone was to walk into your clinic
Yeah.
with this example, how would you go about assessing them and putting in place practices for them?
So I actually work with my clients in like this program that I do with the, have the best kind of enjoy yourself the most, or have the best life, have a great life over 40. And even my skin program, I have a skin program that I do with clients with skin problems, and I have a program of like have your best life over 40. I use a very simple 3-step process. And that first step, so it's not, I don't just work on just your subconscious mind. It's not enough. I found it wasn't enough. When I was just using the subconscious mind, working, using hypnotherapy and using coaching, that fixed a lot, but it didn't fix everything. If clients would come with skin issues, I can help them to think their skin better, but it doesn't fix the skin if every time you're eating something that causes you to have a skin problem. So I work on this 3-step level, and the steps are not, and it's a 3-month package, and the steps are not, they kind of work, they're integrated.
Okay.
So would that help, rather than telling you, how I tell them to think differently? Because that's only one part of it.
Okay, but the thinking is a major part of it, right? Because with my framework, the problem I have with many frameworks at the moment is that they will treat one aspect. They will look at nutrition. They will look at exercise, sleep.
Exactly.
But they don't look at them together.
Exactly.
As pillars, and they don't look at the mind. And I think what I'm hearing from you is that your framework does look at everything collectively.
Yeah. So my framework is very, very easy. It's very simple, but it's very much about hand-holding and me taking you through the journey to a better place. The one thing about my framework is that I don't do it in isolation. So I don't believe nutrition is enough. I don't believe exercise is enough. I don't believe supplements are enough. And I don't believe using your subconscious mind is enough. I think you need to do everything together. And if you make it too complicated, because when I studied nutrition, and I spent a lot of years studying nutrition, the one thing that came out of it was, luckily I had studied coaching before, because the one thing I came out of from that program is you give somebody a 10-step plan and you say, thank you very much. Thank you for coming. And then maybe you see them again in a month for a follow-up. But when you give somebody who hasn't done anything a 10-step plan, they're going to look at you like, okay. And maybe if they're super driven, they might do 50% of that plan, maybe 60%. But if you don't have any hand holding, you don't have anything to help them along, they might do it until the follow-up session, but they definitely won't do it long term, because you haven't put everything in place to help them along the journey. Okay. And one of those things in place is their mindset.
Is this what you refer to? Is this what you refer to as a recode protocol?
No, the recode protocol is a protocol. Is that what you found on my website?
I've been doing my reading.
Okay, good. Glad that you did. The recode protocol is something developed by Dr. Bredesen. And he's very well known. He's a very well known doctor that helps people to stop Alzheimer's, basically, prevent Alzheimer's. And it's the only protocol out there that prevents Alzheimer's. And it is actually very much, so he does a lot from the lifestyle and nutrition point of view. So it's specifically for preventing dementia. So I do get clients, because I work with these clients over 40 who have that as an issue. So depending on what the client comes with, we work on different, it's very, my way of working with clients is very bespoke, but it's very much this simple 3-step plan of, if you want, I can describe it.
Yeah.
So the first part is basically removing the stuff that doesn't serve you. So removing the food that doesn't serve you, the lifestyle habits that don't serve you, the toxins that don't serve you, the thinking that doesn't serve you. It's everything. We get rid of the negative, let's say. And then the second part is just putting in the stuff that will serve you to create the life that you want. So before we even start, I do a blueprint session with clients. And I want to know, what is it that you imagine yourself? What is your ideal life that you want in 5 years, in 10 years, in 1 year? And so I know where their map is. I know what they want. And then I want to know, where are they? So we start off with like, well, where are you? Where are you compared to this blueprint? So that's how we start. And then I say, so this is what you need to put in to serve you. So that includes lifestyle changes, diet changes, supplements, thinking patterns, all of that. So, and then what we do is we glue it all together with this extra layer of mindset work. And this might include hypnotherapy. There's health coaching and nutritional therapy in all of it.
Okay.
But then there's also this mindset work. So I'm more than just a nutritional therapist to these clients.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
everybody these days is becoming a nutritional therapist. I'm more than a coach. And I'm more than a hypnotherapist. It's kind of putting everything together so that I listen to you fully. I want to fully, you hold my hand and I take you to that place and I teach you how to get to that place on your own in between our sessions, through meditation, through visualization, through choosing the right foods, all these things, because everything goes together. Because there is now this big study, which is showing that your, just something as simple as your gut microbiome can lead you to feel great or not feel so great.
What is the gut microbiome? I know you did a thesis on this.
Yeah, I did. So the gut microbiome is all these gut bacteria that basically can either be the good guys that take care of you. They take care of how you feel, how you look, how you age, your immunity, everything. Or they can be the bad guys that break you down. And so a lot of people are making these choices that actually make it worse. And so the choices, you can do it through food. You can be eating the wrong foods. You can do it through lifestyle. If you stay in your house all the time, you watch TV and you don't go to the gym, you're not meeting with other people, your bacteria get lonely. They want to socialize. And you can do it through your thinking. If you're super stressed, your boss is, not being very nice to you, you're feeling like you're not feeling great about yourself. You come home, your spouse is not nice to you, your kids then yell at you. You can, that's it. By having that negative mental state, you're actually affecting your gut bacteria. And so then they affect your mental state back. So this is why it's so important to do this whole 360 framework. You cannot just fix it through eating probiotics. And this is, the thinking in the nutritional field is, eat some probiotics. You can't fix it by just eating probiotics, because you can be eating lots of probiotics but still have loads of stress. And so you're killing the bacteria that's helpful to you through all that stress.
Yeah. And
that stress isn't going to go away. So it's how you handle the stress that changes, not the stress itself.
Yeah. So in this discussion that we've had, you've talked about being a coach. You've talked about nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
You briefly talked about hypnotherapy.
Yeah.
But you're also something, I had to read it twice because it sounded a bit odd, a naturopath.
Naturopath, yeah. So that's something, so the school where I studied nutritional therapy was a naturopathic nutrition school. And I did this extra glue-on course, which was basically naturopathic therapy. So it's very much from the study that's in the US now. We have this degree called naturopathic doctor, but it's basically along the lines of functional medicine. So it's looking at the person as a whole rather than looking at them through, just their gut or their nutrition or whatever. It's looking at everything. And it's looking at herbs that can help them, homeopathy that can help them. We have Bach flower remedies that can help their emotional state. We have tissue salts. You learn a little bit about Chinese medicine. So you learn all these different ways of looking at the person as a whole and helping them through lifestyle and diet changes. So nutrition is part of that, but I already studied nutrition, so I already had that. And then it's kind of like adding more. We do this study called iridology, where you can actually read somebody's irises and know what they're predisposed to, what they're likely to have to worry about.
Okay.
But
so if we try and help just the average person, any person listening, around what you would do with them when they walked into your clinic, because at the moment I'm hearing a highly, highly qualified coach, naturopath, hypnotherapist, nutritionist, functional medicine, et cetera, et cetera. And that's really, really brilliant. I think there's a lot of credibility there that a lot of other practitioners just don't have. But you've got this armory of tools. How do you go about assessing someone and deciding what do they need? How do you know that whether I need hypnotherapy over a Chinese medicine or Ayurvedic? How do we get the certainty that what you're prescribing is correct for that person?
So I always do a free session with a person, because before I sign up to work with somebody, I want to know that this person is going to be a success story. I want to know, are they really motivated to change things? Are they really motivated to fix whatever it is that's blocking them? Because we're usually coming to somebody like me because there's something not working. Whether it's, my skin erupted, or my gut's not great, I'm having all these, issues, or I'm just not feeling myself, or I'm not happy, or my energy's low, or I'm going through menopause, or whatever it is. So first thing I do is I just have a session with them to make sure they're motivated to start before I even take them.
And if I'm not motivated?
If you're not motivated to start, if your wife is pushing you, I'm kind of like, well, there's no point, because there's no point you paying me for 3 months. And I only work on 3 months now, because I've realized a month wasn't enough. A single session wasn't enough. I want to see you through your journey. And it's very much hand holding. And so then it's very bespoke. Then the first session is a very long session. It's anywhere between 2 to 3 hours. I think the minimum I've ever done that session is an hour and a half, but it was very rushed. I want to know everything. I want to know your history, what drives you, what do you want to accomplish, what do you want, what's happened in your health, what's happened in your mental health, what's happening in your family life. So I do this kind of very big knowledge session, and then I follow that up with a blueprint session. And the blueprint session is where, now I know what's going on in your life, what possibly could have triggered whatever's going wrong. And then the next session is also quite a long session, anywhere between an hour to 2 hours, let's say. Usually between an hour and a half to 2 hours. And then we create your blueprint. So now I know what triggered your problems. Now let's create a blueprint to figure out where you want to be. So I've got the bad stuff, and I've got the hope. The hopefulness that you might not even know you believe in until you've had the session with me. Because a lot of people come in and I was like, well, I would love that, but that's never going to happen. Mm-hmm. I'm just like, well, let's not work with never. Let's work with it's possible. So we create this ideal scenario, and then we have to somehow go from all these problems to there. And that's what the rest of the 3 months of coaching is. Okay. And that could include whatever you need. It might include, most likely it includes change of diet. Most likely it includes change of lifestyle. Most likely there's a hypnotherapy session in there somewhere. Everybody's pretty much had a hypnotherapy session in there somewhere, if they're comfortable. If you're not comfortable with hypnotherapy, then it'll be maybe some other kind of visualization, meditation training. There's definitely supplements in there. Most people are comfortable with that. There are, lifestyle, diet changes. I mean, it's everything. It's a big, massive kind of goal. And then if you also want to take care of your skin, if you're a woman and you're, 49, 50, 51, 52, most likely you're looking in the mirror and you're not happy with what you see. So then I teach you some skincare. So I used to have an aesthetic clinic where people would come and we would do treatments. But I prefer this kind of where I can teach you where to get what you need, and I'll just tell you what you need.
Okay. Understood. So it's very bespoke, very personal.
Very bespoke.
And you mentioned your blueprint, and then you mentioned stuff like supplements, hypnotherapy, skin. Are there different layers to your blueprint? So, for example, on the approach that I have, there's some basics that I ask everyone to do. And if they don't do those basics, there's absolutely no point moving onto other layers. Are there some basics that you also preach?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And that comes down to, if you want to lose, if your, problem is you're carrying too much weight, it's affecting your joints and it's affecting your energy, and you're not able to breathe when you walk up the stairs, and your blueprint says you want to be, 50 kilos lighter, or even 20 kilos lighter. You've got to work with me here. I cannot help you become 20 kilos lighter if you're not going to change anything.
Yeah.
And this is where I do this motivation kind of, that's the free consult with them to make sure that they're motivated to achieve what they want to achieve. So in that free consult, I also ask them, okay, what's going on? Why are you here? What is it that you want to achieve? But obviously we don't go into it as big as the blueprint.
Okay. And where does hypnotherapy come into it? So hypnotherapy for me, I don't know much about hypnotherapy, but where would you use hypnotherapy in what situation?
So normally they get at least one session of hypnotherapy. And actually, I don't even like to use the word hypnotherapy anymore. It's more like visualization. So we visualize their ideal state. Or if motivation is a problem, then I help them kind of go a little bit deeper to increase the reason why their motivation should be better. So we go into their subconscious mind. So what hypnotherapy does is it helps you basically access the subconscious mind.
Yeah.
So depending on how willing somebody is and how strong their need is, let's say, we access deeper or more shallow. So
Okay.
it's part of the package.
How do you go about that? How do you go about getting into the subconscious and helping people to rewire that? That sounds quite, you've got all the credibility and qualifications for it. Just to give us some thought around how would this work? People have got visions of just sitting there with his eyes closed and someone saying Paul McKenna style. But how would you go about this?
I am actually trained by the same person Paul McKenna was trained under, which is Richard Bandler, for the NLP. But I also did a hypnotherapy degree, and there are certain, you kind of have different ways that you put people into a trance. And it very much depends on how comfortable they are working with me. Because some people I could do very little. And some people I need to do loads. So it is very much, there's a 3-stage process of putting someone into a trance, and it very much depends on what they need help with. Is it motivation? Is it just, I can't imagine my ideal state, so I need to visualize it to feel it. What kind of person are they? How imaginative are they? It's things like that. Okay.
Now, I've always been skeptical about hypnotherapy, but I used to be, but I had a session of inner healing with a lady called Lisa Butcher, and I talk about it on whenever hypnotherapy comes on, and she actually fixed my sleep issues through this. She kind of put me into a semi-trance, and it's something I talk about a lot, and it healed my sleep issues. So I certainly know it works, but yeah, I agree with you.
It's brilliant for insomnia. It's absolutely brilliant for insomnia. It's also really, really great for social anxiety.
Yeah.
Or people who have like phobias of some kind. Okay. I don't deal that. When I first started, I actually did have a lot of clients who had like spider phobias. For some reason that came up. I don't do as much of those kind of phobias. I do more people who like struggle to have public speaking, and it's really important for their job. And so they're in their head, their mind is saying, I will never be able to be CEO or, general manager or whatever, because I can't speak in front of a group. And so with them, a visualization exercise is brilliant. Their goal is, I want to be these things.
Sure. Now, talk to me about some of the outcomes that you've seen from the clients that you've had in your clinic.
So I had one of my early clients was a woman who was very stuck in her love life. Actually, she really, really wanted to meet the perfect husband, and you
found a perfect husband for someone. You're dating.
Find it. No, she found it herself. She found it herself. She wanted to find somebody. She was like really, and she couldn't get past like date. I think it was date 2 or 3. Every date never worked out past that level. And so we worked a lot around, and she was getting like to her late 30s. So she was very worried about her biological clock and all that stuff. So we worked on her mindset. Why was she fearing this? What was it that actually was happening? And she actually moved to a different country because she had read statistics that in that country there were more men, and she'd have a better chance in that country. So she moved to this other country. It was really interesting. So when I met her, we did this online work, and we worked together we did that package. so part of it was also, okay, she felt like she was a little bit too chunky. So she wanted to, that was her, it's her words, not mine. But weight loss was a big issue for her. She kept being on yo-yo diets. She really wasn't that overweight, but it was a problem. It was like, it was depending on when you get her. So she would be coming off of one yo-yo diet and then gaining the weight back, maybe gaining more, and then she'd go on to another one. So we worked on this motivation for her because it was important. In her head, she thought, nobody's going to love me if I have this extra fat around the middle. That was her thinking. So I helped her to get herself to that point of being comfortable with her body, both from being comfortable with her body, but also helping her move towards getting the body that she wanted. And it wasn't, this was before I studied nutrition. So it was very much from whatever I knew, just because I've always been interested in, eating well. And then from there, we moved on to, okay, now you're getting closer to your ideal. Let's realize what it is that you love about yourself. So I did a lot of gratitude work with her. And then we moved on to, with her, actually did proper hypnotherapy, visualization exercises, where she was very comfortable with like going deep into trance, where she would imagine herself meeting her perfect husband. And I think I was sending her a happy birthday message, I think like 5 years back. And I saw a picture of her on WhatsApp with her wedding dress on. It was like a wedding picture. And I said, oh my God, are you married? That's amazing. And she was like, oh my God, I keep meaning to write you. Thank you so much. I kept doing these visualization exercises even after we finished. And I met this amazing man in this other country she moved to. So, that's what was really cool about that, though, because in her subconscious mind, there was this thinking, if I move to this other country, I am more likely to meet him there. So she kind of was already partially getting there. It just wasn't manifesting yet. So when she came to me, she was very much of the thought, this is the country I'm going to meet someone. I can tell you my own story before I even, when I started studying subconscious mind, like I had got back and forth with subconscious mind at some point. And I had in my head that if I came to London for my MBA, I was going to meet my husband here. I had in my head that I need to go to Europe for my MBA. So I applied to only European schools. I was like, I don't want to do my MBA in America. I know I'm going to meet my husband when I do my MBA, and I want to do it in Europe because I like European men better. And I met my ex-husband within like a month of being there. So we manifest our thoughts. But at the time, obviously, I didn't connect everything because I wasn't so aware of it all. But I had in my head the whole time, that's how I was going to meet my husband.
Okay, so I think both of those are amazing examples. You've taken a lady who saw herself as being chunky, her words, who would never find her husband. You've attacked her thought process over her body. I'm trying to read my own handwriting. You then took her through a process of gratitude and visualization, and ultimately she started seeing the world in a different way. And when you do that, the universe starts working for you. I firmly believe
exactly.
that. And
exactly.
there she is getting married, and there you are with your husband from America. And this is through the training that you provide in your clinic. So I think that's absolutely wonderful. Maybe you could give us another example of clients who have had more physical ailments, because although this lady referred to herself as being chunky, it sounds like it was very much a rewiring of a thought process. But have you had clients who've had skin issues, who had weight issues, diabetes, and in that 3-month period, you've been able to kind of rewire their life to tackle that?
Yeah, so a lot of my clients, actually, would say majority of my clients, let's say my younger clients, so my non-40 plus clients, are coming with skin issues. So I've had a lot of clients who have been suffering from acne, psoriasis, eczema. Those are probably my big 3 that I treat. So I had one client that came, younger client, had psoriasis. So it was really interesting because her psoriasis would flare. She had a semi-good diet. It was like okay-ish. Her psoriasis would flare very much from when her negative thoughts would start. She would start thinking that she wasn't good enough. She wasn't good enough to meet somebody. She wasn't good enough to have, the life that she wanted. She was kind of like, she didn't love her career. So she kept thinking, I'm never going to rise. I'm never going to get better in this company. I'm never going to get the promotion that I want. I'm just not good enough. And that would flare her psoriasis, but not just that. There were also certain basic things that she was doing from a diet point of view, even though her diet was to, Westerners, from a Western diet point of view, her diet was pretty decent. She wasn't eating loads of processed food, but she was eating foods that would flare psoriasis. So when she became conscious, okay, these foods and this thinking pattern are what's flaring me, we started to, do that 3-step process, which is take the bad stuff out. So this is bad stuff for her. Other people could get away with something like that. She, however, couldn't. So she had to take away certain foods, which were probably flaring her psoriasis. And then what we were able to do is we took away those foods, and then we were able to add a bunch of them back by the end. But also she was able to then control. She knew, okay, if I eat this food, this will probably flare. But if I have this food times 3, so this food today, tomorrow, and the next day, it will really flare. So I can handle a little bit of a flare, but I can't handle this huge flare. So when she became conscious, she was able to kind of change the way she eats. But in addition, she had to manage that stress, because she would have this peaks and troughs with stress and with her own mental thinking pattern. She was alone. She didn't want to be alone. She was lonely. She didn't want to be lonely. So we also worked on that kind of, let's get you out there. Let's get you meeting people. Let's, make you feel comfortable about meeting people. And so we worked on that side as well. So this is like, let's put the good stuff in. So you're socializing. You need to socialize. Why don't you, but you like running, you like cycling. Why don't you socialize doing the things you like? So we kind of did that. And then we worked on her mindset. So her mindset was like, I'm never going to meet anyone. I'm never going to do better at work. I'm never going to get that promotion. And I was like, why, you have all this skill set. Why are you waiting for that promotion? Why don't you just go to a different company and ask for that job somewhere else? Which is what she did in the end. I mean, initially she'd been at that company for like 9 years. And she was really scared of change.
Yeah.
So this was one thing where she was like really scared of change. So we got her out of that mindset of like being really scared of change. Like change could be a good thing. It doesn't have to be a bad thing.
Yeah.
And a lot of that came from actually her parents. Her dad had been in a company for 50 years. He'd never changed. He kind of like stayed in that job, and he slowly moved up the ladder. I think he made it to like manager. So it was in her, from the beginning. She was like, I don't move companies. I don't change. I don't, oh my God, what, I have to be proactive. Like it wasn't part of her vocabulary.
Yeah. Yeah. And where is this lady now? What kind of position is she at now?
So she actually moved with, like, we did so much. I mean, initially we did so much practice. Some of our sessions were even just interview practice. She applied to a few different companies, and in the end, she actually got a great job. Initially, she had kind of, she had a kissing frogs moment with her work career, because she didn't get the first job she applied for. She didn't get the second job she applied for. She didn't get the 5th job she applied for. Initially she sent her CV and nobody looked. And then I think it was like maybe the 10th job that she kept going, she kept trying, we kept doing the visualizations, and she got the job. And it was probably, out of all those, it was probably the one that was the most meant for her. It had a very nice team of people. She had the ability to kind of work remotely and also at the same time go in. So it was just the right environment for her. And she did really well in that environment. And she started with that managerial job that she wanted, and she moved up because that environment, that company really valued people like her, who were warm, who were, like really wanted to help other people. She's like a loving, warm, lovely person. And she met someone in a drinks thing for that company, but it was from a different company. During the drinks thing, that company had a drinks thing. She was there with that company, and then there was somebody else that she was from a different company in the same drinks thing, and they met like that.
That's amazing.
Yeah, my next thing was going to be to put her on online dating, but it didn't even have to happen because she visualized so much
Yeah.
that it just kind of.
To be honest, Julia, what I'm taking away from this interview is that when I go to your website, when I go to your credentials, I can read the medical qualifications, the nutritionist, naturopath, hypnotherapist, specializing in women's health, skin, etc., etc. But what I'm taking from the discussion with you is that you're not just treating single symptoms, you are changing and rewiring people's minds, the epigenetics around them, right? And by doing that, you're having a much broader impact on their lives. And whether that's on their skin, on their diet, on their diabetes, on their, any other condition. So I think it's really big credit to you that you're doing this. But I do want people to understand that you're not just there to treat psoriasis. You're not just there to treat, someone who wants to lose 20 kg. You're going deep into the root of it. And this is my problem with a lot of frameworks out there at the moment, that they don't do that. And I feel like I've met my kind of buddy who doesn't live too far away from me, because our frameworks are quite similar. You're setting people on a direction without saying that you will lose 20 kg, you will lose X points off your cholesterol markers. You're setting them in the right direction with solid habit that is treating that. And that example you used around going into someone's mind and body because it was manifesting in skin issues, acne and so on, is a great example of that. So I think, credit to you for the way in which you're approaching this. And I think I want viewers to kind of take that way, that this is pure functional and integrative medicine. It's not saying that Julia's going to tell you to go on a green diet for 6 weeks.
I will never tell you to go on a green diet for 6 weeks because I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And this is actually what I do with people. Everything, if I can't do it, I don't think somebody else can do it. Especially when I do work with teenagers. So I know I had talked about this 40 plus protocol, but I actually do work with teenagers over 18, let's say 18 to, and in their early 20s, who struggle with acne. And they're not the easiest people to work with because they don't want to, they're in, usually in uni or last year of high school. They don't necessarily want to change their diet. That is actually the last thing they want. But if they're desperate enough, they will eventually clean up their diet to a certain degree.
Yeah.
But changing their diet is the last thing they want. So I'm not gonna tell them to do a juice fast because they would kill me. Yeah. They probably would come through the screen and be like, I don't think so.
It's not good for you. It's not good for you, a juice fast. All this craze around AG1 and all this sort of stuff coming out there.
I'm so glad you said that.
Yeah, I think I'm about the only person out there who's going on saying, I'm sick and tired of hearing AG1.
Oh, me too. I'm really sick and tired of hearing about AG1. Especially seeing the tube ads. I'm just like, stop already.
Yeah, exactly.
The tube ads, by the way.
Yeah. Now, a couple of other things. You do talk about the skin a lot. So there's a lot of frameworks that talk about body and mind, but you have a lot of emphasis on the skin and the interrelationship between the mind, body, and the skin. Why is the skin such a fundamental part of your framework?
So when I started nutrition, skin was the first thing that got me into nutrition, to be fair. So at the same time, so I talk about psoriasis a lot. At the same time, so I was doing the coaching and the visualization and the hypnotherapy, and it was going quite well. But then I think I was going through a stressful period just in general. Part of it was the divorce. And the after effects of the divorce. And at the same time, my PA, who was working for me, was going through a stressful period. She had psoriasis and I had eczema. And I had a friend of mine who was studying nutrition she was doing a natural chef course at the school that I ended up studying in, which is a brilliant school. I can give them a shout out, the CNM. And I came into CNM to clear my own eczema and to help her clear her psoriasis. So that was so I started out with skin. And I came to realize while basically everything I did at CNM, as much as possible, I focused in on skin. And I came to realize that skin is a really big reason why people will seek out help, because it is the first thing that people see about you. Your skin, your hair, your figure. It's the first thing that people see. And so it's one of the reasons that people will go and talk to somebody. If you have gas and you have kind of gut issues, you might struggle with them for a while. But if you're all of a sudden completely broken out and you hate the way you look, you can't leave the house without putting a veil of makeup on, you will go and see somebody. And this is the case for a lot of teenagers. They might struggle. They might be struggling with energy. They might be struggling with low motivation. They might be, borderline depressed or anxious, but they might not talk to anyone until their skin struggles. So it became a very big reason of what I did. It just became my first calling, let's say. So I did a lot of skin, which is also why I studied aesthetics, because I thought, okay, we need more than nutrition to clear skin issues. We also need to understand what's going on the outside. And it's also one of the things that women who are, perimenopausal, when they look at themselves in the mirror and they don't like the way they look, that is not for everybody. Some people just accept their age and they're very happy with it. But for many of us, we don't see what we like, and we want to do something about it.
Yeah.
Because it makes us unhappy.
Every time, well, most of the time when you've given me a response in this interview, you've always gone back to the mind. You've always gone back to the mind. Even on that skin example, you went back to the mind of a teenager, what they may be thinking. Mm-hmm. Is there something around your personal experience that drives this, or is this just a fundamental desire to get to the root cause, or is it something much more personal to this?
Oh, I think it's both. I mean, I think everything starts in the mind. I mean, I think I'm a very big believer in the law of attraction, first of all. The secret, all of that. I have seen for sure in my own life over and over and over again, the periods where I manifest the life that I want and where I get closer and closer to it is when I very consciously put my thoughts into that. So when I coast and I don't put my thoughts into anything, or I let whatever background thoughts are in the back of my mind kind of be there, and some of them are negative, some of them are self-doubt, whatever it is, then I manifest the opposite. So whatever we're doing, and I use that word manifesting a lot, whatever we're doing, we're manifesting. Whether we're consciously thinking about something or whether we're subconsciously thinking about something. So we might as well control our thoughts, because if not, our thoughts control us.
Absolutely. 100%. I've been in the situation where my thoughts start controlling me, and the ramifications it can have. And I've done a couple of corporate talks in the last couple of weeks, and I describe to people how good you feel when you learn to live with your thoughts rather than exclude them. And when you live with them, you can just tell them to shut up. You can just say, look,
exactly.
I know you're there, go away, and so on. So yeah, I think it's very powerful what you do. This conversation's gone really, really well into, I think, layering mind, body, and skin. Mm-hmm. But I have read your website, right? And I've read your website, and there's a couple of things there which you mentioned. I've not gone into the gut microbiome as much as I'd want to, but we can do that some other time. Mm-hmm. But you also talk about mind aging and inflammation. Why does the mind age, and do we have any control over that process? So
this is where I would turn to Dr. Bredesen, who is my hero and the person, whose course, the Recode protocol that you mentioned. Basically, if you think of, and I love his analogy, if you think of a roof, you have a roof on your house. It doesn't, I don't know how old your house is, but my house has been here, I don't know, a certain amount of years. When I moved in, I think maybe 5 years into living here, maybe it was less. The woman who lived here before me had lived here for 5 years. People before that had lived there for 5-10 years. At some point, the roof started to develop some holes. And if I didn't patch those holes, there would be more holes. So it's the same thing with us. At some point, the inflammation grows in our body. And very often, most of us are not clearing those toxins as well as we should. And as you get older, it becomes more and more difficult to clear those toxins. And also, as you get older, you sometimes develop some bad habits, and those bad habits actually react. They actually grow, they grow and they become what's happening to your body. So it's the same thing with your mind. If your body is aging, if if the toxins are growing inside your body, the bad stuff that you're putting in is growing, your bacteria in your gut is not as great as it should be, over time, our resistance goes lower, and the inflammation inside our bodies grows higher. And inflammation is very hard to pick up. I mean, I have a client that just recently asked me, but why? I had all these blood tests, and the CRP and the inflammation markers were fine. How can I still have inflammation? I said, well, all of these things that are happening are demonstrations that you have inflammation.
Yeah, I'm not
So,
going to. I'm not going to start on a new topic. I think
yeah.
all these companies that are doing these inflammation marker testing, there's very few who actually publish their algorithms. There's very
Mhm.
few that have got double-blind placebo testing papers available around it, and so there will be a lot of at-home kits that people send off. They come back with the results that are really positive, but then you go do another test, the result is very different. And so,
And
so
even this time clock, because I go to some of these biohacking
yeah,
summits and meetings, and I was speaking to a woman who said she was amazing. She was 86 years old, looked great, and
yeah,
like very sharp, very trim, um, and she was saying she's done some time clocks with the biological age.
yeah,
And I think she said one of them said that I'm 18, and the other one said I'm 108.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, how can you have, two different time clocks and completely,
Yeah, I totally get what she's saying.
yeah,
As many of the viewers know, I appeared in the Daily Telegraph, and the Daily Telegraph put a full page on me, and
yeah, I
it
did.
said
That's how
that
I found you.
yeah, it basically said that this guy's age has gone backwards. But I did not want to talk about the biological age,
Right.
but the Daily Telegraph were insistent,
Yeah.
and in that interview, I said to them, "Hold on, I can give you a clock, 5 different clocks that give
Yeah.
me a range of different ages." But
Yeah.
so to me, my true clock is: am I waking up feeling great?
Exactly.
How's my blood sugar
Exactly.
level? What's my cholesterol? What's what generally how am I feeling? The
Exactly.
clock may say X, but it's that daily stuff. But sorry, I'm digressing. But inflammation
Oh, no,
is bad for you.
absolutely.
Inflammation is bad, and it can have an effect on your aging. If you don't control it, it can lead to many other problems. How do you go around controlling inflammation? So on a Friday, I
Yeah.
typically go to my local gym. I do my sauna, my cold plunges.
Amazing.
I do all that stuff, and I think that all helps with senescence and autophagy
Yeah,
in the muscles.
absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely. But not everybody has access to that kind of gym. And
yes,
this is, I think we were talking about when we had a call with you. I don't have access to, on a regular basis, go to a sauna and go to a cold plunge. So
yeah,
there are things you can do at home. And this is one of the things I learned in the naturopathy course, which I highly recommend anyone that's doing nutrition at CNM, do the naturopathy course alongside. And you could do something very simple like hydrotherapy, which you can do in your own shower. Hot shower, hot shower, cold
yeah,
shower, and you finish on cold. Um, little things like that. You can dip your feet into a bath and just do that, hot, cold, hot, cold. I mean, that's a little bit more complicated. The shower is easier, but little
yeah.
things like that. Even, going out when it's cold and allowing yourself to be cold, even that is helpful. So there's all these, if we basically over comfort our lives, that also isn't very helpful. We need to
Yeah.
sometimes suffer a little bit to get the best results.
That's an amazing line. I'm going to clip that and I'm going to put that as a trailer.
Amazing.
I
Please
think I
do.
think I think it's a good stresses. And look, we've been talking for an hour, and we're having lots of fun talking for an hour, and we could talk forever if I'm honest. Talk to me briefly about supplementation. It's such a confusing world,
So confusing.
and what are your thoughts on supplementation? And should people take supplements? If so, how do they begin? How do they decipher what they should take and what they shouldn't take?
So I, as a nutritional therapist, I think people can probably imagine, I mean, not everybody in my field, to be fair, but I'm very much into supplements. I'm a very big believer in supplements. But, and I say this as a but, because I have these arguments with my younger clients all the time. Supplements are called supplements for a reason. They are an extra that you put on top of what's already working well. They are not a replacement. So I do have younger clients that, who have skin issues that say, I'm not going to stop eating crisps. I'm not going to stop eating pizza, but please give me some, give me some vitamins that I can use to get rid of this acne. And I'm just like, I'm not peddling drugs here. Like, you can go to your doctor and get these really, these kind of pills that will get rid of acne at a cost. It will come at a cost because it will cost you gut health or liver health or mental health or whatever it is. I'm giving you a better way to live your life that will clear your skin more slowly, but more effectively and more long term. So supplements are the same way for my, anti-aging clients, let's say. They are an extra that you put on top of a healthy lifestyle and a healthy diet. Healthy as you can.
Yeah. Sorry,
I'm a very big believer in them.
Okay, just on anti-aging, which anti-aging supplements, would I don't want to say would you recommend, because it's individual to each person.
Yeah, I was going to say,
which ones do you think have more efficacy to them than others?
It is very bespoke.
Yeah.
And with my clients, it's very much bespoke. And who are they? Are they a man or a woman? Totally different supplements if they're a man or a woman. And then what are you trying to achieve? Is it that your hair is thinning? Is it that, you're worried about your prostate? Your prostate's coming down? Is it this, hair thing for women? Is it your skin? You don't like the way your skin is looking? What are you trying to achieve? Is it that your energy isn't great? Is it that you want a replacement for HRT? You don't want to do HRT. Is it that you want HRT, but you want something on top of that to take it to the next level? So it's very much bespoke. I very much ask about budget. What is your budget for supplements? What do you want to spend? But I would say that as a general start, you need to make sure that you have enough of the vitamins that you need to survive. And that means that everybody will go on some kind of multivitamin or a B vitamin complex. So that is the basic general lower level. Before you go on take resveratrol or CoQ10 or NAD or NMN or whatever it is, start with the basics.
I've taken all of them. I've taken all of those
too.
things.
I take a lot of supplements, but I take the basics first.
Absolutely. So, and I'm not just making this up, but if people read my ebook on my website, it starts off by saying you must get your trace minerals and vitamins first.
Yes.
And they're called micros for a reason, because you really can't get enough of them from just eating. And so for me, I take my high quality multivitamin. I take my vitamin D, vitamin K, and my B12 spray. They are my non-negotiables in the morning.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I take it spray in the mouth. Goes absolutely. And so they're the non-negotiables. Get all the kind of healthy eating, the exercising. I started experimenting with NR and NMN and transresveratrol. I stopped taking them when I understood the science. I take NAD now. I take NAD because I understand the science around it tends to work better for me. And some high quality fish oil. And
these are all things that are in that list of what I would tell somebody who wants to biohack their.
Yeah, and also some plant sterols for cholesterol, because some things I can't control. It's the genetics, and so the plant sterols, and that's it. And good quality water. That is it. That is it, my friend. And the occasional glass of wine with a friend.
Yeah. You've obviously read the Buchner's rules.
No.
Okay.
I must actually. Look, we're kind of getting towards the end of this, but we've not really talked about your clinic directly, but we've talked about your approach, and I'm assuming your approach is very much aligned to what you do in your clinic. But if you want to take this moment to tell people about your clinic, where you are, what you do, how they can find you, etc.
Yeah, so I've actually moved away from the clinic, and I've moved to, because I was finding a lot of my clients couldn't travel to where we were. So, and also me and my business partner split ways. So I've kind of moved more to a like global approach. People more do, spend time with me on Zoom now, which is, we can do everything on Zoom. If they are somewhere within the vicinity, I do invite them sometimes to my home clinic, or sometimes use a space. But mostly I work with clients on Zoom. They can find me on my social media, Youthfuller U on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok. And clients do find me that way. They can email me youthfulleru@gmail.com. And they can call me. I have kind of on the website, youthfulleru.com. We have a phone number. We have a way to reach me. They can schedule a free consultation there. So click the little thing that says schedule a free consultation, and then I take them through. Everybody that I'm thinking of working with or that wants to work with me gets a free consultation, because I want them to know what they're getting into.
Superb.
And I want to make sure that they're the right person.
Superb.
And I do bring out regularly, and I'm bringing out soon, an acne fighting program. And then there will be other programs for skin issues, for hair issues, for aging. So that's all in the works.
Okay. Is there anything else that we haven't talked about that you'd really like to talk about? There are other areas I'd like to go into, but
so much. Probably for another time.
We will get you to one of our seminars, and we will talk about that in person.
Amazing.
Okay, but look, just to conclude, from my perspective, it's really amazing how the world starts attracting you to people when you start actually visualizing, as you've said, where you want to be in a few years' time. And since I've been on my journey, I'm about to conclude the second series of my YouTube channel, and we're going to go on to the third series. Did I ever think that we would hit a third series? No, I didn't.
Wow.
But the power of manifesting attracts like-minded people. And Julia reached out to me on LinkedIn, and we've ended up chatting, and we've ended up on having this episode. And the most powerful thing for me is that you can go to Julia's website and you can read everything Julia does, and you can get in touch with her. But I think what we can see from this episode is that there's so much more than what you're going to read there. There is actually a whole life change. It goes into the mind, really goes into the mind, really starts to recode how you think, how you behave, goes into your subconscious, which drives everything. That then manifests better behaviors, better habits, and a healthier life. And so from my perspective, I'll be keeping in touch with Julia, and everything Julia's talked about on this episode. We've talked about people calling themselves chunky. We've talked about people trying to find themselves a husband by moving countries, teenagers, and acne. We've talked about skin. We've talked about the body. We've talked about setting blueprints. We've looked at emotional health. We've talked about hypnotherapy, naturopathy. We've talked about nutritional therapy. Julia is the source for you guys to contact, and the initial appointment is free. So go push the button and go and find Julia, everyone.
Thank you, Sanj. And actually, I read that Telegraph article. That's how I contacted you, because that Telegraph article was so brilliant, and it showed up on my feed because obviously they know what I like to read.
I had friends in Australia who contacted me and said, "Wow, this has just popped up on my feed," and it was a little bit embarrassing, to be honest. But hey, you've got to put yourself out there.
Absolutely, well done, you.
Great, Julia. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, San. So nice to talk to you again.
Yeah.